Welcome back to Telltale Books. We have another video review of one of the many authors that we're deep diving into. And I'm Greg.
I'm Emily.
And we're here to talk to you about William Wilson, which relates to what I was just talking to you about, The Double by Jose Saramago.
Yes.
It's a similar sort of story, the doppelganger kind of story.
Yes, I love doppelganger. I didn't know that Edgar Allan Poe had written a doppelganger story.
No.
This one has slipped off my radar because I've always done like collected works, not full works of Poe. But now that I got that vintage book and that one bulk buy book opening thing that I did with all those cool woodcuts and stuff and illustrations in it. Oh, I should have brought it. There was a fun illustration in that one.
Of this story?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It was
That
basically
would've been
the
neat.
two guys. Anyway.
So William Wilson, we haven't done 67 reviews of Edgar Allan Poe, but this is the 67th work of all of his poems and stories that he had published. And it was published in October of 1839 in The Gift, a Christmas and New Year's present for 1840. Don't ask me what that is. Some magazine or book. It is a doppelganger story, but doppelganger stories were very popular back then. Frankenstein is basically a doppelganger.
In a lot of respects.
And Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a novel by Dostoevsky, or novella maybe, called The Double.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also...
The Prince
what's
and the
title of
Pauper?
it? Okay.
Prince of Pauper is another one.
There's that one I read when we were at Metalware, The Justified Sinner. I forget the exact title. But it was the inspiration for Robert Louis
Diary of a
Stevenson.
Justified Sinner, or like History of a Justified Sinner.
Yeah.
Yes, I got a digital copy of that and I haven't read it yet.
Pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the inspiration for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's another doppelganger story.
Yeah.
So that was a very popular theme for some reason in the mid-1800s.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And so, synopsis.
All right, so this is kind of a morality story in a lot of regards, as some of the doppelganger stories we have mentioned already. It has a lot of social commentary. So, this young man goes to grade school, or off to like a boarding school situation, and there's this kid who is slightly crippled, like has a little gimp, and has this weird thing where he can't shout, his voice just goes hoarse immediately. But over time, this kid looks like him, starts talking and behaving and mimicking him, and he just kind of like is this frenemy of William Wilson, which is not his actual name. He's using a different pseudonym to kind of protect the innocent in a lot of regards, or protect his own identity, essentially. And this kid's name was, like, super similar to his, and they had the same birthday, the same time of birth. Almost everything about them was the same, except that this kid had to mimic him a lot, in a lot of regards. And, like, he kind of gets annoyed with this kid, because basically everything he tries to do out of fun, which is kind of mischievous, this kid is, like, thwarting all the time. And so they kind of end up being, like, frenemies, but thick as thieves. Like, wherever one went, the other was there. Like, but then they have a row, and they decide, he's like, we're not friends anymore. And they stop talking, and eventually he moves off to another school.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, while he's at that school, he's, kind of becoming more morally gray. And as he does, he's kind of getting into the sex, drugs, and rock and roll kind of lifestyle. And while he's doing this, suddenly, this kid shows up again in his life, kind of scolding him for being such a dick. And he's just like, what? No. Freaking out. He's like, this guy's stalking me. This is stupid. Like, how dare he? So he ends up kind of going home for a time to kind of recover from, like, this kid is stalking me. This is weird. So then eventually he ends up at Oxford. While he's at Oxford, he is, like, rock bottom partying. and orgies and all kinds of debauchery.
Because that's what you do at Oxford.
And that's what you do. And he's like not passing classes, and he's like gambling hard, and he's decided to manipulate a situation where this guy who's super wealthy, or assumed to be super wealthy, kind of manipulates him into losing all his money while gambling. And eventually, like, as he's sitting there and realizing this guy is like, oh, maybe I should just give his money back, because this guy is distraught.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of having a conscience moment where he's like, maybe I should give the money back. But I mean, like, I worked so hard to get it. And then his doppelganger shows up again and berates him and says this guy's a charlatan. He is awful. Like, this guy is terrible. Y'all should just excommunicate him, essentially. Which they do. Because they're all, like, really feeling bad for this guy who lost all his money and, like, all this stuff. So anyway, he's sitting there, he's just like, this is really freaking crazy. Like, this guy keeps, like, ruining my life.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere I go, he's just, like, calling me out on things, and, like, I'm just trying to have a good time. So he's justified killing this guy, essentially. And, of course, there's some other details, too, about things that are, like, exactly the same about the two of them sprinkled throughout the story. But he decides to kill this guy, and spoiler alert, he's successful. Except the guy is himself.
Mm-hmm.
And because the other guy dies, he does, too.
Yep.
And that is the end.
Mm-hmm.
Cut. Anyway, so this is very typical of the doppelganger stories I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
Where it's an identical look-alike.
Mm-hmm.
And one life is responsible for the others. Like, they have to have this symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you die.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. So, it's definitely interesting.
Well, it's symbolic of the good and evil sides of everybody's personality.
Mm-hmm. What I think is interesting is that our main character is the more evil side. Mm-hmm. Which usually the main character is the good side in conflict with the evil one.
Right.
Not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate this story for that reason, because it definitely gives you a different perspective of how the mind justifies what it's doing because they're trying to have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so interesting.
But there's also a little bit of Fight Club here where where obviously it's possible the only person seeing the double is the main character.
That's what I thought too, until the Oxford moment when everybody was like, yeah, we saw him. He's totally creep and whatever. And here's his coat, which is the exact same coat as the guy.
But that's another great doppelganger story is Fight Club, where
yes, that is a good one. It
turns out, well, in case you haven't read it, I won't spoil.
Yeah. It's a good one. Read it.
Yeah.
Or watch the movie. Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah,
we prefer reading,
awesome,
but hey.
too.
Anyway.
In that case, I think the film, I mean, there's some great performances
yes, there really are. Helena Bonham Carter. She's amazing in everything she does. Anyway. But yeah, so I really appreciated the flip perspective, because I feel like there is such an emphasis on focusing on the good guy instead of focusing on the deterioration of the bad guy. Mm-hmm. And I do love that there's that, like, unreliable narrator thing going on again. Yeah. So yeah, this one's a top tale for me. What do you think?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because this is, like, not at all what I expected of Poe. I did not realize he had even written a doppelganger story.
Yeah.
I'm so glad he did. And
coming up, I'll be reading another doppelganger novel, The Double by Jose Saramago. Mm-hmm. Because Samantha lost a challenge. So I got to pick a book and movie. The Double by Saramago was made into the movie Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal. And I was just, before we started rolling, I was telling Emily about that.
Mm-hmm. If you're on our Patreon, you might see the full length. We don't know. Whatever we feel like posting. We just kind of throw it over there. But anyway. Yeah, so I definitely appreciated the story a lot. And I felt like it's... I mean, Poe has written so many great stories. How is this one not in more collections?
It's pretty well known, but it's also... It's not the intense horror of like The Black Cat or Fall of the House of Usher or The Raven, stuff like that. And so it's a little more softcore, a little more psychological.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why
it's more thriller than horror, I guess.
It's a little more intellectual than, and less in your face horror than other Poe works.
That's probably why I like it. I like intellectual work. People will probably come back and say, "Hey, this one's real dry." I'm like, no.
No, but
it's good.
Like you said, it's in your collection. It generally is. If you get books that are like his top tales, this one will be in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, because I've gotten like the best of Poe works prior to that vintage one that I got.
I have to show off.
Yes, show it off. It's so cool. This.
It is the most recent Suntup edition. And I'm amazed at this because this was just listed like in February. Mm-hmm. And I bought it expecting the usual year to year and a half lag time before I actually receive it. And they shipped it out just like weeks after I ordered it.
Wow.
And so I received this a couple weeks ago. And it doesn't say, it just says Poetry and Tales. Mm-hmm. But looking at the table of contents, I think it is the complete poems and tales of Edgar Allan Poe.
That is really cool.
And
it's a thick book.
Ridiculously thick. Somebody made the comment that they should have split it into 2 volumes.
Look at this. That is at least 4 inches.
But you get enough of these and you can wall somebody up with their Amontillado.
Yes. You could build a floor with them. Or hide a heart.
Exactly.
Heart underneath.
Or you could just
I do love that cover art,
or you could just whack your black cat.
With an axe.
Well, no, with the book.
That's true. You don't need an axe if you've got a book this thick. You could bludgeon a man to death with this, honestly.
Exactly.
This is hefty. I wish we had like a scale. We could sit here and be like, look at how much this weighs.
But they did a great job. I love the dust cover. I love the interior illustrations.
I like that they did it bigger but not oversized.
Yeah.
Because this is hard enough to handle at this weight. It would be so much harder. That was a good design decision. Mm-hmm. It would be so... Oh, there's illustrations!
It's fully illustrated. Excellent illustrations.
I'm a sucker for
nice classic margins on the pages, which is why it's so thick.
Yes. Yes, they do give you very nice, generous margins.
A lot closer to the edge, they could have cut.
I'll hold it upside down if you can see. Maybe you can. I don't know.
They could probably cut 1/10 of the book out if they would have just gone closer to the edges the way major publishers do. But they chose not to because this is easier to read.
It is. It is a lot easier to read.
And generous leading.
And the spine is... Like, you don't have to crack the spine at all, it feels like.
Yeah,
it's a really well-flexed spine.
That's what's going to be the test of time, whether that spine is going to hold up to such a wide book.
Mm-hmm. But it does make it very convenient to open. You don't feel like you have to crack the spine or wrench it open in any way. Ooh, there's Stonehenge! I've been there. It's a cool place.
So, yeah, that's where I'm reading Poe from now on, is my new Suntup edition of the complete works of Edgar Allan Poe. They even have the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym in this book.
Oh, and they even have drop caps.
Yeah. That's fun. Yeah, they have a lot of attention to detail in Suntup books. These are excellent books.
Journal of Julius Rodman. Nice. They have a whole table of contents for that too. Mm-hmm. Nice.
That's the one thing. It's good, but it's bad. Is that it's kind of divided into sections. You got all the poetry together, and you have a table of contents for just the poetry. And you have to go to the end of the poetry section to get the table of contents for the tales. Yeah, and that's why I have 2 bookmarks. The first bookmark is marking where the table of contents is at, so I can go and find the next story that we're reading.
These illustrations are phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so good.
So... Not positive, but I think there are still copies of this left on Suntup's website if you want to check that out and order yourself one of these. They're not cheap.
You will also be paying quite a hefty price, I'm sure, for shipping, because I could develop nice biceps just doing this for
a
while. That is beautiful.
But it's worth it. I've been wanting a really, really, really nice collection. I have the Modern Library edition, but I don't like the dust cover. It's got nice typography on it, but that's all it is. It's just the type.
Make your own.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think about doing that for some of my books too, just because I'm like,
go.
you know what? That'd be fun. I'll make my own.
And especially if you got a used one that the dust cover didn't come with it, you can just make your own.
Yep.
Print it off.
Have fun. Enjoy. It's the fun part of being a designer. You can just do stuff.
If you have a printer.
Yeah, if you've got a nice printer.
Uh-huh.
I could borrow the one at work.
Well, I've got that one over there.
Yeah, you
It's
have that really
decent.
nice one. That is a pretty nice one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Anyway.
And that's all I got to say about that. It's definitely another top tale for Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, and again, the synopsis I gave does not give the actual literature. It doesn't do it justice.
Even if we spoil the crap out of these stories, it's worth reading just because of how they write.
They're so
much
beautifully
better than
structured.
how we talk.
Yeah, it's so beautifully structured. It has that really old style, like, word choice is perfection. Go read it. It's great. Top tail. All the way. So.
And so now it comes a time when we say, if you have read William Wilson, or even if you haven't, but just have something to say, please leave comments. We love to read them, and I try to respond at least to say thanks to every comment that gets posted on YouTube. But we like to see that, because that's, this isn't about us. This is about all of us and you getting together and enjoying these great works of literature that have been done through the years.
Yeah, we love your commentary. Like, you guys bring us insights that we would never even think of. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. Keep doing it. You guys rock.
And like and subscribe, and come back for the next Edgar Allan Poe, which...
Consult the scrolls.
I'm consulting the scroll. She put that on my business card.
Yes, he is the keeper of the scrolls. Because you're the one who keeps track of all the bibliographies and stuff.
And keep
scroll through it.
And the next one is one I've never read. The Conversation of Eros and Carmion.
Eros and Carmion? Eros, I think. I don't know.
I don't know.
We're English. I mean, we can slaughter whatever we read. All we want, because that's the American way, I guess.
Yep.
I don't know.
So that's from December 1839, and that's the next one we'll be reading.
I've never read that one, so very intrigued.
I'm looking forward to. Of course, it could turn out to be a real snoozer. I
know. I mean, it's hit or miss with Poe. We've had some that are just like, and we've had some that are like, yeah. So, we'll see. We'll see what the next one brings.
Yep.
So, thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.